Hello, this is LifeByMazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the LifeByMazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible. Any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At LifeByMazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the internet, security, cybersecurity, things like that. Not as much in a technical sense, but more of a metaphysical or holistic approach to the idea. But first of all, I wanted to talk about why I'm interested in this topic tonight. I randomly ran across a scholarship to take a course in cybersecurity for healthcare environments. Not sure why I accepted it, because it is quite a detailed and very methodical course that is just goes into absolute depths on things that I am not familiar with. However, I am going through it and we'll see how well it goes. Obviously, the universe speaks in many ways. Maybe it's something I need to be paying attention to with my own business and in the environment that I work in. I tell you now that the criminals of today are not necessarily those that are waving a gun in your face and asking you to take money out of a drawer. Not that it doesn't happen, but criminals now are more in the white collar realm, meaning they have to have some expertise in the cyber world, the computer world, the technological world, in order to actually steal from you. And in many ways, they can do that on a grand stage, doing it through technology. I recently had my debit card hacked somehow. Not sure why. It's always in my pocket. I use it to get gas most of the time. I go over to the PX on the camp. Nowhere, crazy. And it seems like most of the devices I use are pretty secure. But somehow, somebody was able to get my card, the number, the details, all of that, and perhaps create a fake card, sell it somewhere, and make these charges in other states. It is crazy. It's not the first time. This happened to me quite often, actually. But it really brings home the idea that it's not very easy anymore to keep yourself secure on the internet. And the scary part is the internet is what we use to accomplish almost everything in our life today. When I was growing up, there was no home computers. There was barely television, with the old rabbit ears and, the chunk of channel changers. Come a long way in a big hurry in the last 60 years or so. It is absolutely crazy what we can do now. And the internet was not something new, I don't think. The idea has been around for quite a while. I was researching some of the history recently. There's a lot of different ideas of when it began. This is something that probably even started long before we even realized it did, or at least the idea of it did. Even back when Nikola Tesla was around, he had the idea of transmitting things wirelessly, and he was actually working on that for a while. And of course, that got taken away from him, or at least the funding did, so he couldn't really realize his dream in that aspect. But the internet began, I think, my understanding, early 1900s. They began to play around with the idea of connecting things. But it wasn't until, I believe, the late 1960s, 1969, I believe, is the year when, of course, the military, or DARPA, was successful in transmitting a message from one computer to another. I don't know all the details other than they were able to successfully do that. Perhaps it was through a telephone line. I don't know, because at that time I believe there was telephone lines connecting the entire United States, at least. I don't know about other countries. But now the internet is absolutely embedded in everything we use. I don't think there's very many things now that you can't access with your phone. I can go on my phone, I can look at the cameras at my house in another city or wherever I have internet connection. As long as it's connected to the internet, I can see what's happening at my house. I can set the alarm, I can change the alarm, I can change passwords, I can do all kinds of things from a different city. I can do all kinds of things with my truck. I can start it on a cold day from inside without using a key fob. I can get on an app, start my truck from a distance, unlock it from a distance. Just so many things you can do now, which seem very convenient. But the problem is, when you have convenience, you also have the threats of it being hacked. I've seen so many videos and articles about how easy it is actually to capture somebody else's data simply by walking past them, scanning a card that might be in your pocket from a device from a maybe not too far away, and then just using that information to hack your accounts, drain your bank accounts, create an identity crisis for the individual because they steal your identity. There's just so many things that happen now. I mean, it's gone so far now that everything you use, I mean, on a daily basis almost, is connected to the internet. Your vacuum cleaner is connected to the internet through Bluetooth and all these things. All your appliances in your houses nowadays are pretty much connected to the internet. Anything that's connected to the grid in any way, shape, or form is being listened to and tracked and monitored. Everything that's on the electrical grid, everything everywhere is accessible to somebody for the purposes of knowing who we are, what we do, what we say, whether we're a threat, all those things, I'm sure. And there's good things about it as well. I'm not trying to dim down on everything, because the miracle of the internet has really changed the scope of how we do business and how we can make things happen so quickly nowadays. A 24-hour day is almost ridiculous. That was kind of the old caveman days. 24 hours was literally all you had to get something done. Now you can go onto your computer and make something happen in an instant almost. If you want to look up something about some New Guinea cat, you can go on the internet and find it. Just about anything that you want to find, you can find. That doesn't mean all of it's factual and all of it's relevant and all of it is truth. It may or may not be that way, and it's becoming, by and large, very hard to understand what's actually truthful and what's correct and accurate. However, it is a very wonderful tool. It is something that I use all the time as well. I can work with clients from anywhere across this planet, this globe, this place, across the internet, through Zoom, through a lot of different apps, through WhatsApp. I mean, just all these social media platforms. And you name it, I am connected in all kinds of ways, and so is everybody else. But with that comes great threats to our data, our information. And this is why you have courses like cybersecurity course that I'm in now, is because now that the internet is this viable and this robust, it is also very prone to vulnerabilities to being hacked. And in some ways, I'm almost convinced that many of these antivirus companies are the ones that make the viruses so that they can stay in business. But that's, who knows? That's just a random thought. Can't prove that. Don't know if that's true. I mean, people can do all kind of things nowadays, and even though they may not literally be hacking, they can do a lot of phishing. They can do a lot of different things. Phishing with a phishing. I don't know about you guys, but I get random texts from strangers all the time on every platform that I have. I mean, literally every platform. And what they're trying to do in many ways is to get you to think, oh my gosh, I have that Norton antivirus bill that's due. And then you start logging into your account through whatever link they sent, and bam, they have your data. Now they can log in and do it themselves, and they can get in there and do whatever they want. So you got to be really careful. And people also do phishing to try to get you to access things and to do things for them. They make you believe they're some kind of official in some kind of official capacity. The internet is a wonderful tool. It is also a very vulnerable tool, and I think we have to be careful what we do, how we do it. And the hard truth about it all is that nowadays, almost everything we have, I mean, our machines do hold data. They can hold data. They can hold files. Most of us don't keep them on a computer anymore. We keep them in the quote unquote cloud or safekeeping. But if you're putting all of your data on a cloud or a server somewhere else, it is prone to attack as well. I remember a few years back, somehow somebody was able to hack into my domain somehow through Microsoft and all these different connections that are all put together. Somehow they were able to access that, and they went in there, and they didn't just like play around and pretend they were me. They went in there and sent thousands and thousands and thousands of undeliverable emails purposely to addresses that don't work. And all day long, I was getting these email bounce back notices that just clogged up my system. And it was chirping and bouncing and just like would not stop. It bogged my system down. I couldn't even use it. I had to get on the phone with the help desk, and we managed to put a patch in that stopped that. But it still took like probably a week before all of that actually stopped. It was insane. And why would anybody want to do that? It's like some people don't have anything better to do but to sit in their basement and figure out ways to make people's lives miserable. And I don't know how true that is, but that's what it seems like. And perhaps it could be because of what I do for my business. Yes, I don't know. It could be a lot of people that could care less about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, and that's okay. I get that. But to ruin somebody's life through technology is just crazy. But technology these days is even more intense, because if we can, or the governments, I'm speaking of the US government anyway, at least in their claim that they can turn off all the bank accounts and the funding streams and all those things for other countries because they are not going along with the agenda. The term is escaping me, but it's where they're able to reach in and freeze their accounts and do all these different things. If the governments of the world can do those things to other governments, imagine what they can do to little old people like myself or you or anybody else. I've seen videos and articles about some of the big movie stars and rap stars getting their accounts frozen, tons and tons of money in their account, and they can't access any of it because of whatever reason. They didn't go along with the agenda, or they were doing something that was inappropriate. I don't know. It's really not that difficult anymore to do that, apparently. I mean, I couldn't do that. Wouldn't even know where to start, but I wouldn't want to. But the thing that's interesting is the internet has brought us such great wealth, such great abilities to work from home, work from anywhere. You can grab your phone, sit out on the beach, and trade stocks. You can do all kind of things just from your phone. It's crazy the things we can do now. But I also wanted to digress back to the internet. So the internet is a very interesting thing. It is something that is at surface level, this monstrosity of information across servers all over the place. Nothing you put on there you could ever delete. You might think you deleted, but it always exists somewhere on some server. It's there for eternity, or as long as servers exist, I guess. I suppose if the earth blew up, they'd be gone. But the internet is very difficult to ever be hacked completely or ever being taken down. Now it's like a machine or a device that is now in perpetual motion that you can never really turn off. People say they can hack the internet. Well, it's not. I don't think it's possible. I don't think you could ever take over the internet. But the internet is maybe not what you think it is, because what's on the surface that we can see, and when you go in and you look at just about anything, you can research, you can find it. Almost anything you can imagine, you can find information about it. It's crazy. If you want to find out how to repair the window on a 1970 Eldorado, you can almost find anywhere or in many places a video that somebody did about that particular thing. And it just blows my mind that the information that's out there is so vast and so incredible. It is just hard to imagine. But on the surface, what we can see, all that I'm talking about, is really only about 1% of what's actually on the internet or available in the internet, the capacity of the internet. So what we can see publicly is very small compared to the rest of it. Most of the rest of it is encrypted and used for businesses, and this is where people often refer to as the dark web, which really sounds like a really dark and dastardly place, but it really is just that encrypted level of the internet that is vast across businesses and enterprises and things like that. And so the internet is, once again, a very, very interesting tool. And it was, of course, invented in the late 1969. But the internet is also not entirely what people think it is. It is actually a wired system. Just like everything we have across this planet, everything is connected through wires of some sort, cabling. Our electricity is going from house to house all across the United States, and I'm sure across every other country that has electricity, which they all do, I believe. The telephone system used to be that way. That is kind of downsized a lot. Most people don't have a regular phone anymore or a regular phone line. Most of those are through the internet. And so, in line with all that, the internet is also something that is wired. You can go pull up maps about it. You can find it almost anywhere on the internet. That the countries, the continents, are all connected by cables that are run across the oceans using special ships. And these are also very vulnerable, of course. So the idea that satellites are orbiting our planet is kind of strange to begin with. They may be up there, I don't know. It seems to beg the question, though, that if satellites were up there and they were doing all the transmission of our internet and television and cable TV and all of those things, then why would we have a need for cabling across the planet? It is crazy. It is a very elaborate system with very, very deep pockets, yet it is connected through a more archaic way. Yes, the cables are optic fiber and more advanced nowadays than it used to be, but we are physically connected across this globe. And to switch back to artificial intelligence, which I've talked about on a lot of videos lately, which is also part of this internet system, which it basically has to be. I've recently watched some interesting research videos. How true they are, I don't know, but it really kind of comes back in line with some of the things I talked about before, where artificial intelligence is now picking up on a lot of things that us human minds and archaic computers like the one I'm using now can't really pick up on. And this is data that's coming from the James Hubble telescope, I think it's called, with the one that's out in space, supposedly pointing out into the universe and looking at things without having to look at that through the lens of the Earth's atmosphere, and capturing some really crazy and interesting information from deep space. But what they're supposedly pulling out through AI, through the help of AI, from some of the data streams that are coming back, or the pictures, or the, I guess data is the best way to put that, is that they're looking at some kind of crease or opening in the space-time. And it is something that they didn't ever pick up before, and they thought it was something that was maybe an anomaly, that they've gone back and looked at the data themselves over and over again, and they can't figure out how to dispute it. And it seems like it is a moving target. It's not like just a tear in space-time in one instant, but it seems like it's something that moves, and it's moving around. It's very consistent, and it happens a lot. And apparently a lot of what they're finding through interpreting data through the AI programs is that they're finding things that are definitely not in line with physics as we know them through the science that we have now, all the research and things that have been done. Now, of course, artificial intelligence, through the power of the internet, can effectively look at things at a very quick and much deeper level, more analytical level than any other devices we currently have. Quantum computing is crazy amount of thinking power and deducing power and looking at things that we could never do in any lifetime. A normal computer could take billions of years to come up with a solution to a problem, and quantum computers can do it in minutes. So it is crazy. What I'm trying to bring forth with this is, with quantum computing, some of the things that have been happening already with some of the early advances of quantum computing is that quantum computers are developing a scenario or a solution to something that didn't necessarily have a problem, and it would go back in the past in its timeline and create the problem to support the solution that it came up with. And so it's almost like quantum computing is like a child learning to do things and playing games, playing hide and seek, if you will. And it almost seems like with this idea that there's a tear in fabric of space-time, and some of the data that they're getting through CERN, all these things are aligning with all of that. You wonder sometimes if either the quantum computer or computing computers, quantum computing computers, that's a weird way to say that, multiple computer systems looking at the same thing, are coming up with these ideas that seem to go against the grain of everything we know. Not that we know everything. We probably never will know everything. But it just begs the question, is the quantum computers actually acting like a child and making things up and creating problems or solutions to something that they have to now come up with the problem to support the solution. So, in other words, what I'm getting at is the artificial intelligence computers, are they actually just kind of going off on tangents and doing whatever they feel like? Or are they actually finding things that we can't find and letting us know? I don't know. It seems kind of crazy to think that quantum computers actually have the ability to reason and think back and cover its tracks and hide from people looking at its data. It also kind of pushes me into the arena of maybe we do live in some type of simulated universe of sorts, and that what we think are quantum computers are really just other players in the game, and that it's just another way to kind of throw us off our trail, to keep us from getting to any certain point or levels of the game or levels of life or evolution. I mean, there's a lot of things to unwrap here. I know I'm kind of wandering around with my thoughts, but I believe with the advent of all the technology that we have and all the connections that we have, that we are so connected and so in depth with technology that we have begun to lose our humanity, to lose ourselves. It's almost like we've forgotten that the power of being alive is just absolutely amazing. If you look at a lot of spiritual channelers, they will often say, and say a lot actually, that many souls that are out there in the cosmos or in existence never get the opportunity to know what it's like to be a human being, to actually feel, to hear, to know what it's like to eat a steak, know what it's like to be angry, know what it's like to be in love, or all those things that we take for granted, that we think is just everybody has these things. Well, maybe not everybody, but every soul or spirit that exists may not get to have this experience. We may have to look at life a lot differently if that's true. And I can't prove that that's true, but it makes a lot of sense to me based on the experience I have with my own meditation journeys and working with clients and helping them through hypnosis and all these things, that we do in fact exist as a soul or spirits outside of this human body, and we have other places that we also exist that don't have these same opportunities. Free will, for example. And so I think we need to really kind of take a step back from technology and our inclusion in the life of technology, or including it in our life, not including it as much as it should be. And remember what it's like to go walk in the grass or to go outside in the sun, to hang out with your favorite person, walk hand in hand with your mate on the beach. All these things that we got to remember that are important parts of or aspects of being human that we are losing through technology. Technology is becoming our God. Technology is going to begin to run our lives even more so now with the advent of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And so we have to really make a concerted effort to go back to what it's like to be human and understand what it's like to be human and disconnect ourselves from some of that technology periodically. Is it in our life for good now? It is. And we can't get through life anymore really without it. I get that. But we can overdo it. And I do sometimes. I get on a roll sometimes on TikTok and get on the right algorithm, and next thing I know, it's, an hour later. And we all do that. But we have to try to kind of pull ourselves away from that and remember that technology is not our God. That, your idea of God might be different than mine, but we all, I think, have some idea of that external source that supports us and guides us and helps us along the way. And we need to remember to have a relationship with our God and not so much the technology. and get back to doing things that invigorate us, that give us enlightenment, that gives us progress, becoming more of a better human being, to be a better person, to help others become better people. There's a lot more things we can do besides stare at TikTok for an hour. It happens to all of us, but we have to make a concerted effort and get back to basics and remember that being human is a privilege. It is not offered to every soul or every spirit that's out there. And we need to take advantage of that. The fact that we are here against tremendous odds, 400 trillion to 1, scientists will tell you that we are even born, even have the opportunity to be here. Most people that could be born will never be born. And you are more unique than any person that will ever walk this planet, this place. No one will ever match you identically as you are currently. So let's remember that we are precious. We are absolutely empowered to do anything we want, and we should get after that and begin to do what we want. And remember that our life as we know it is not super long, and we're not going to be here forever. So let's get some things done. Let's have some fun. Let's grow as a person. Let's help other people grow and become more enriched as a human being. I will digress here. I encourage you guys to go to my website, take a look around, lifebymazak.com, LifeByMazak.com. There's a lot of cool things there. I love to work with people because when I work with people, all of us learn. You learn, I learn, everybody learns. And if you look at my practice, I'm a little bit of everybody I've worked with, a little bit of everybody that's helped train me and teach me and guide me. And so I look forward to working with you. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay strong and live your life.